Just over a week ago, I did a video taking a look at 7 pre-arranged summer transfers. It's a video I've made for the last couple of transfer windows, and as usual, it proved to be pretty popular. Given that in the last week I have also made videos about the rise and fall of FC Kaiserslautern and the 7 players who have had the greatest impact on the full-back position, I figured I'd best try to do at least one more video that people would actually watch, and what better method for success is there than a tried and tested format. If you haven't watched part 1 of this video, go and give it a watch. It's way better than this. But if you have already watched part 1, don't think that this isn't worth watching. It is still hands down the second best video on this subject about this summer's transfer window made by me on YouTube. To be clear, these are transfers which have been signed off on ahead of the summer transfer window opening and will be completed whenever the relevant summer window opens, typically on June 30th or July 1st. Brilliantly, if this video also proves popular, I have enough ammunition to pull a part 3 out the hat as well, but I won't get too carried away just yet. Here are 7 pre-arranged summer transfers. Part 2. PEDRINHO to Benfica. It is a well-known fact that as soon as a footballer is crowned with a name ending in inho, they are destined to be a future Brazilian international. Except for Gianluca, of course, who is from the Ivory Coast. Or João Moutinho, who's Portuguese. Okay, under some scrutiny, what I initially said is absolute nonsense, but if I hadn't pointed that out, you might have thought of Juninho, Robinho, Ronaldinho, and thought that I was actually making quite an accurate or insightful observation. The inho in typically Brazilian Portuguese names just means small or little, and now there is another inho on the block. His name is PEDRINHO, and he is relatively tall by inho standards at 5'9", and if I say inho anymore in this video, I may go insane. PEDRINHO was born on Brazil's east coast, and he joined Corinthians from Vitória at the age of 14. A natural number 10 who is quick, skillful and majestic on the ball, PEDRINHO turned 22 years old last week. A very small number of you may be familiar with another PEDRINHO, who was also 5'9" and Brazilian, who won 13 caps for Brazil and played in Italy during the 1980s. His namesake is yet to win a first cap for Brazil, currently a member of the Brazilian under-23 squad, but he has already played 127 games for Corinthians. PEDRINHO signed off on a summer deal to sign for Benfica last month, setting Portugal's most successful club back a reported €20 million. Gianluca Mancini to Roma. Gianpiero Gasperini has done a magnificent job at Atalanta, but the problem for him, as it so often is with overachieving clubs, is hanging on to your best players. Gianluca Mancini, who is among the most promising young players in Bergamo, is one player who has already left the club. Italy have a rather enviable habit of churning out superb defenders year after year, and Mancini looks to be the latest in that long line. Mancini, who turned 24 a few days ago, describes Marco Materazzi as his favourite defender of all time, but I think it would be simplistic to say he is self-styled on the aggressive Inter Milan legend. Mancini is a little bit more measured, he likes to carry the ball out from the back, and he is really quite a good passer of the ball. The thrice-capped Italian international's finest attribute is undoubtedly his aerial presence though. Standing at 6'4", he has a tremendous leap, and his head is a real weapon in both penalty boxes. In his last season with Atalanta, Mancini scored 6 goals. He joined Roma on loan last summer with an obligation for the Serie A side to make the deal a permanent one, which they will do on June 30th. Mancini will only set Roma back £12 million, and that could prove to be a really astute piece of business in a few years' time. Danel Sinani to Norwich City. The Premier League is reportedly still set on finishing the current season by hook or by crook, and that could be bad news for Norwich City, who found themselves in the most perilous position of all relegation-threatened sides. Whether the Canaries are in the Premier League or in the Championship next season, they will be welcoming the arrival of a prolific wide man by the name of Danel Sinani. Unlikely to be too familiar to many of our subscribers, Sinani is from Luxembourg and he has only ever played in Luxembourg. A tally of 30 goals in 61 games, predominantly from the left flank for Dudelange, suggested that Sinani had outgrown the Luxembourg national division even at the age of 23, and it is Norwich who have decided to take a flyer on the young international. Sinani was born in Belgrade, but his family moved to Luxembourg when he was 5. One of few deals completed during the current crisis facing football and the wider world, Sinani signed off on a deal to join Norwich last week on a free transfer. Sinani considers himself to be a number 10, but he has also played on the left and right flanks, earning plaudits for his craft, skill and goals. The step up from Luxembourg to the Premier League or even the Championship is an enormous one, but Sinani has impressed in the Europa League. The 2019 Luxembourg Footballer of the Year, who has already won 21 caps for Luxembourg, may be one to watch at Carrow Road next season. MIKKEL DAMSGAARD to Sampdoria. A baby-faced number 10 who plays with a maturity well beyond his tender years, MIKKEL DAMSGAARD, is a name unlikely to be familiar with most outside of Denmark right now, but he will be a full international before too long. Currently playing for 5th place Danish Super League side FC Nordsjælland, DAMSGAARD is a talented and thoughtful playmaker who has played as a number 8, 10 or out wide on the left flank where he can cut inside onto his stronger right foot. DAMSGAARD made his Nordsjælland debut at the age of 17 and 2 years on, he has played almost 100 games for the club. His performances caught the attention of a couple of clubs, and somewhat out of the blue, it was SAMPDORIA who confirmed the signing of the 19-year-old 2 months ago. DAMSGAARD is believed to have set the Serie A side back a little under €7 million, and for a player who is neither the strongest or quickest, but is intelligent on the ball and neat in tight situations, a move to Italy makes sense, and it could prove to be a shrewd piece of business for both club and player. Emre Can to Borussia Dortmund. The most well-known transfer in this 7 I would suspect, if you didn't know that Emre Can's loan move to Borussia Dortmund came with an obligation for the Bundesliga side to buy the German, well, now you do. One of a number of German internationals who are of Turkish descent, Can was born in Frankfurt, but he relocated to Bavaria at 15 when he was signed by Bayern Munich. Can made just 7 appearances for Bayern Munich before spending a season at Bayer Leverkusen, where he impressed enough to convince Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers into triggering his release clause. Can had 4 very decent seasons at Anfield, capable of playing in a variety of different positions. Athletic, technically good, and just an all-round rather complete midfielder, Can ended up leaving Liverpool for nothing, joining Italian giant Juventus after his contract expired. Following 37 appearances in his debut campaign in Turin, Can was phased out in the first half of this season, and in January, he joined Borussia Dortmund on loan. The 26-year-old scored a sublime goal in his Dortmund debut, and Juventus will still turn a tidy profit on Can, who will set Dortmund back a reported €25 million. Matheus Fernandes to Barcelona. There was a Barcelona signing in part 1 of this video, there is a Barcelona signing in part 2 of this video, and I could add yet another Barcelona signing if I were to make a part 3. Matheus Fernandes is the man we are interested in here though, having sealed a deal to the Camp Nou on January 31st, 2020. Aged 21 and uncapped by Brazil's senior team, Fernandes has represented Brazil under 17 and under 20 level. A product of the Botafogo Academy, Fernandes played 85 games for Botafogo between 2016 and 2019 when he was snapped up by Palmeiras for around €3 million. It took just 6 months for Palmeiras to turn a quick buck on the young midfielder, although their fans may feel he ought to have commanded more than the initial 7 and potentially €10 million that Barcelona will pay to get their man. Energetic and enthusiastic, Fernandes is well-rounded, he tends to operate from a deep starting position, but he still likes to make runs in behind. In accordance with his future move to Barcelona, Fernandes joined Real Valladolid on loan in order to get some experience in La Liga in January, but the league suspension means things haven't really panned out like that. Antony to Ajax. A spoiler alert if you haven't yet watched it, but in part 1 of this video, we talked about Hakim Ziyech's pre-arranged transfer to Chelsea. Ajax are a club who sometimes seem to have a never-ending stream of talent, and they have outsourced their replacement for Ziyech already. Antony Matheus dos Santos, better known simply as Antony, is a talented Brazilian under-23 international who will set Ajax back potentially as much as £18.2 million. Ajax aren't a club that like to throw money around without serious consideration, and Antony is someone they have very high hopes for. The 20-year-old can play in several different positions, from attacking midfield to the right flank, and even through the middle as a false 9 or centre forward. An archetypal Brazilian wide man in many respects, Antony is elegant but exciting, possessing a fantastic first touch and bags of flair. He has played 42 games for Sao Paulo, lighting up the Campeonato Brasileiro with his audacious flicks, tricks, and ability to beat players, becoming one of the most foul players in the division. Antony is more skillful but less creative than Ziyech and just as one-footed, but his potential is enormous, and there are few clubs better at developing young footballers than the one he will join in a couple of months' time. That is it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed it, and make sure that you are subscribed to HITC Sevens.
This is a Chucky Beat production.